right, welcome to Your Time, Your Money, the show where your time is just as important as your money. And we know that today's a great episode. We always enjoy guest speakers, and today's no different. I'd like to introduce Shawn Moodie to you with Moodie Bluez Consulting Group. And, we're excited to have him because, for me, I've known Shawn for probably about 10, 15 years, maybe?
About 10.
Yeah, about 10 years or so. And today our topic is managing credit, both personal and business as well. We're going to get into those topics. Adam, good to see you today.
Glad to be here.
Yeah.
Glad to be here. Yeah. No, this is a great topic, I think, because, people inherently, as we're going to talk about, they spend money, sometimes overspend. And as advisors, we're a lot of times trying to help manage that with people and get them in certain mood sets and know how to save and instead of putting it towards constant debt. So I'm excited about the topic today.
Well, let's get started. It's your time.
Your money.
I'll let you do the honors.
All right.
And as we say, don't break it. It's hard to replace it. I guess ultimately, we'll dive right into it, and really want to talk about your credit score, and we want to talk about credit in general because there's a lot of misconceptions. You always hear people say, "I have good credit, I have bad credit." And then you ask them what it is, and they don't even know the number. They don't even know what it relates to, or they give you a number, and it's not what they think it is. So maybe we'll start with just the introduction of your group. Why don't you tell us about how long you've been in the business? I know your entire career has been centered around this and helping people out, and then you transitioned to Moodie Bluez, and just tell me a little bit about that, and why don't we talk a little bit about kind of it is credit in general.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Mark, and appreciate the time. Yeah, so former bank executive, I just told on myself, but I've been in the credit space for a little over 10 years. And prior to that, I've been in financial services close to 2 decades, really dating myself here. And I'm very passionate around financial literacy just in general. And you're right, there are a lot of misconceptions around credit. What Moodie Bluez, what we do, we look to debunk a lot of those misconceptions, right? So we basically specialize in what we call credit empowerment. So we want to make sure people understand what credit is, how to use it, why it's important, and then what the rules are, right? Because the rules that revolve around credit have not changed in decades. So in the age of the internet, there's really no excuse not to understand the basic concepts of how credit works and why it should be important to you, right? Because at the end of the day, this is your financial reputation.
Yeah, because it's tied to everything, right? I mean, it's
really
tied
is.
to lending, or it's tied to, any loan that you get, anything that you do is, has a credit report associated with it, I assume, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's tied to even think about your car insurance premiums, right? You think about your driving record, that's important, but also part of your premium is also determined based on your personal credit scores. Renting, obviously purchasing a home, even certain, job requirements require certain credit scores. And so, credit, again, it's your financial reputation. Whether you agree with it or not, it's basically intertwined in basic American life. And so it's very important that you understand where you stand with your credit, because it can make the difference between you achieving whatever financial goals you may have, whether that's starting a business, purchasing a home, or it can prevent you. It can be, it could be a hindrance to you achieving those goals as well. So you want to understand where you are as far as it relates to your credit, and then what you can do to improve it.
Yeah. I mean, a common analogy, I guess you would say, would be quicksand, right? It's the worse credit you have, the harder it is to get out of debt, the harder it is to get lower premiums, which if there's a higher premium, it's once again harder to get out of debt because you're paying more for something. Same thing with a loan, with any type of loan, right? So it's this quicksand effect where is if you don't control the credit, you're just quickly going down. So what you try to do is, right, bring people in, improve the credit so they have a base to go off of.
Yeah, so, we do everything from credit repair. So whether people have gone through some sort of life event like divorce, bankruptcy, job loss, medical emergency, right? Life happens regardless of what tax bracket you're in. But then we have people that just don't know, right? They don't, for lack of a better phrase, they're ignorant as far as how credit works. It's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing, because the reality is for many, many years, for decades, this stuff is not taught in schools. Right. Mm-hmm. So unfortunately, some people have to kind of figure it out as they go. And unfortunately, if you figure it out as you go, one little mistake, now you're in, you got a 500 or 600 credit score because you had one late payment. Right. And so it's important to understand how the credit system works. And I'm sure we'll touch on that this afternoon. And, there's some basic tips, basic behaviors that you can employ today, where if you've got less than perfect credit, there are steps that you can take today to get yourself back on the right track. So hopefully we can touch on that as well.
It's interesting you said the whole education factor, right? People will see it with clients that generationally there's wealth there, right? And it's because they are teaching their kids and kids' kids and all of that how to maintain and grow wealth. But credit management and going in and out of debt is something that is not taught, and and it ends up being a lot of times a life lesson for people. Like, I remember freshman year of college going onto the pathway where they had all the booths set up, and there was Discover Card, hey, and other credit cards that were just like, hey, sign right up, here you go. And I did that, and I remember buying stereo equipment, and my parents said to me, how are you going to pay for that? And then I learned the lesson and cut the card and got myself out of it. But that was my life lesson. But education, I think, is key.
Yeah, those 8-tracks will get you in trouble.
The 8-tracks.
I was probably one of those tables back in the day, but we're not going to go there. But
That's funny.
Why don't you just explain your process a little bit? Because I know that you are very relational within your client base, just like we are. We like to get to know the person. We like to ask them the personal questions and see where they're at. Somebody calls you and they says, hey, you know what? I want to work with you a little bit. I want to, find out about my credit. I want to see what I can do to improve my credit. Like, what's the process that you go through?
Yeah, so with every client, we do a free consultation. Typically, it's a 15-minute consultation, and we ask them to have their credit report with them because again, that'll tell the story. They'll fill in the blanks of the things that the client may or may not know.
And that's something easy for them to get?
Absolutely. And so, it's really, so when I do the consultation, there's a couple things I want to accomplish. One is I want to make sure that the client has a really good understanding on what's on their report and why, right? What is on the report? How do I read this? Because for some people, it's like reading hieroglyphics, right? Mm-hmm. They don't understand. They've never looked at a credit report, especially if they've gone to a bank and they've gotten turned down and they get access to what's called the tri-merge, which is a 3-bureau report. Different reports have different formats. It can be a little confusing. So that's the first step. Second, we take a 4-prong approach. I call it the ABCD approach. So we'll start with C. C is the credit. So we talk about different opportunities to repair their credit. So when I say repair, they may have some derogatory information on the report. They made a mistake, whether it's a late payment, a collection, a charge-off, a bankruptcy, right? Under the Fair Credit Reporting Act, the burden of responsibility is on the bureaus to ensure that any information on your credit report is accurate and verifiable. A key word is verifiable. And there have been studies that show as much as 79% of the credit reports in this country contain inaccurate, unverifiable, outdated information. So that's 3 out of 4 of us in this room today. There's probably 3 of us probably have something on our credit report that does not belong there. So let's start with that premise, right? So we look at different opportunities to help them fix their credit. The B stands for help them build and protect whatever credit they do have. So I want to make sure that they are empowered with the knowledge to understand, okay, you have a credit card with a $500 limit. Here's how to appropriately use that credit card. You want to keep your balances less than 10%, right, of the actual credit limit. Obviously, you want to pay on time. One late payment can drop your score between 90 to 110 points, right? And late payments are very, very difficult to remove. And guess what? They happen. But at the end of the day, that one late payment can prevent you from getting that personal loan or qualifying for that mortgage, right? And so it's really coaching them around the basics of how to use what they currently have and how to build upon that. The D stands for debt, particularly bad debt. So if they've got any bad debt associated with their credit, let's say, like for instance, today I was working with a client. She's a $2,000 collection from National Grid, and unfortunately, she allowed someone else to use her name to sign up for their electric bill, electric and gas, and this person, you try to help somebody out. What do? They turn around, the person changed their telephone number and burned this person. Now they've got a $2,000 collection. So now we got to figure out, okay, how do we pay National Grid? Can we offer a settlement? So we also work on the debt piece of it as well, because debt and credit are, although they're 2 separate priorities, they are obviously related.
Sure.
And then A stands for attorneys and affiliates. So if it's outside of my scope, so for instance, someone needs a budget, they need to speak to a financial advisor. I am a credit, I consider myself a credit expert. However, I'm not a financial advisor. So if someone wants, a complex or a really good budget, I'm going to send them to a financial advisor, right? Or they may need a banker, or they may need an attorney. We've been able to help clients get over $65,000 in settlement money based on violations from the credit bureaus and collections, as an example. So bottom line is I know this word is overused, but we take a holistic approach. I want the client to feel comfortable. We do show empathy because, again, like I said earlier, life happens regardless of your tax bracket. And so I want to make sure that the client understands, we're coming from a non-judgmental, perspective, and we really want to help.
Yeah, it shows you there's a lot more to credit than just the score.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's where clients get bogged down is they just think, oh, what's my score?
Just that interesting fact about how quickly your score can drop just by missing a payment. I knew that it obviously was effective to lowering your score, but by that much, I would never have guessed that. That's
That's a fun fact I share when I do workshops, and everyone is always, I always give them a multiple choice, and 10 to 20 points. Whenever I say 90 to 10, it's always there's a sigh in the room. So yeah.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell our listeners kind of what's that range or the expected range or the better than average range, the great range? What's that range within that score that they should look at?
Yeah, so FICO, which stands for Fair Isaac Corporation, is the score that's most widely used with banks across the country. So 90% of banks, 100% of mortgage lenders are going to use FICO. The reason I'm sharing that is because many consumers use an app called Credit Karma, right? Because it's quote unquote free. What they don't realize, and I'm not knocking Credit Karma, however, you want to make sure you're comparing apples to apples. So if you go into a bank, you go for a mortgage, more than likely they're going to use FICO. Well, Credit Karma uses what's called Vantage Score 3.0, which is a lesser known credit scoring model, which was created by the bureaus to compete with FICO. Again, these are not government agencies. These are for-profit companies, right? And so, you want to compare apples to apples. And so FICO, which is used by, like I said, 90% of the lenders, the score goes from 300 to 850. Now, you don't need an 850, which is the top score, to qualify for the best rates, the best terms with banks. Generally speaking, you want to have your score at bare minimum, you want your score between a 680 to 720. That's considered fair. Anywhere from 720 to a 780 is considered very good. And if you got a 780 plus, so between 780 and 850, generally speaking, you're gonna qualify for the best rates, but the best terms, whether you're purchasing a vehicle, you're purchasing a car, that is a car, purchasing a vehicle, purchasing a home, a personal loan, a business loan, you're gonna qualify for the best rates. So I tell people, listen, you don't need to be perfect, but you need to know exactly where you are. So just like you check your bank account at least once a week, some people check it once a day, have that same type of respect and sense of urgency with your credit score. I tell people to check at least once per month.
Oh, really? Wow. Excellent. Yeah. Well, let's take a quick break. We're going to go to our community spotlight, which is always our fun time here where we can highlight a local business or a business in the area that we like to bring our clients' attention to. And today we're going to highlight Rusk, Walden, Hapner, and Mark Tasello. And they're a attorney firm out of Kingston, New York, 845-331-6930, and they're at 255 Fair Street, Kingston, New York, 12402. Christine Guido down there has been working with us for years. She does a lot of different estate planning, real estate planning, closings, trust, things along that lines. If you're in the Kingston surrounding area, Wallkill, Walden, that whole area down there, check her out. And once again, that's 845-331-6930 at 255 Fair Street in Kingston, New York. So once again, a great community spotlight for today. So let's switch gears a little bit, and let's really focus on the business end of credit, because I think it's important that small business owners, that people that are looking at starting a business, people that have a business and looking at expanding, really kind of understand maybe where your services can come in on the business side. Do you want to, maybe break out the difference of why it's important that maybe a business owner starts looking at their credit a little bit more seriously?
Yeah, absolutely. So as a business owner, you really want to divorce yourself from a financial perspective from the business, right? And I think unfortunately, a lot of businesses found that out the hard way during COVID, right? Unfortunately, a lot of businesses shut down. But in any event, the business funding is really the lifeline of a business. Credit is really the lifeline of a business. This is credit that's attached to the business. Why is it important? A couple different reasons. One is, again, it's business that's attached to it's credit, that is attached to the business. You're talking about 50 to 100 times more credit capacity. If you have established business credit, you get access to better rates, better terms, okay? And then true business credit is not going to reflect on your personal credit report. So if you have true business credit in the way of business credit cards, business lines of credit, business loans, okay, these financial instruments do not report to your personal credit. So now it's not going to drag down your personal credit score. It's not going to drag down your debt to income, which is very important on the personal side. And then of course you don't want to commingulate, your personal and your business. You want to keep them completely separate. Another benefit I think with business credit as well is people don't understand it's an intangible asset. Why? Because it's transferable upon sale of the business. And so if I establish $500,000 worth of business credit and I decide to sell Moodie Bluez Consulting 10 years down the line, well, guess what? That $500,000 of business credit is transferable upon sale of the business. Okay, so when you think about businesses that are looking into, selling or passing down to the family, these are things they can start to think about.
And that's always something we always talk with business owners about is kind of starting that wedge between personal and business life, right? Because in finance, that happens all the time. It's like, they're mixing in like, oh, my car that I use for everyday driving, I run it through the business or, or whatever it might be.
My cell phone or what.
My cell phone,
through.
Or their profit coming in, then they just reinvest back in the business. Maybe they don't start a 401k or a retirement account right away because they're cycling it, back through. And, I think it's always important that any business owner starts, kind of that wedge between the personal and the business side, right? How can you, really financially know what your business is doing if everything's commingled?
Right.
Right. And then it's hard later on, right? For valuation, when you go to sell a business, how do you prove?
Setting up the retirement plan specifically for income coming in. What's your source of income going to look like? What does it look like now? What's it going to look like in retirement or once the business is passed on to another owner? Yeah, it's imperative to separate them.
Yeah, and I would imagine that the better the credit that you have that is transferable, that the more that weighs maybe on the valuation of your business when you go to market it or sell it to your successor.
Yeah,
absolutely. And people don't realize, even the SBA is going to look at your business credit. Of course, they're going to look at your personal credit. Let me just put that out there. As a business owner, your personal credit matters. Let's just get that on the record. Having said that, business credit, like I said, it is a game changer, especially for newer businesses, right? For all businesses, but for newer businesses, right? Because 1 in 5 business owners right now have no idea what business credit is, right? And if they do, they do know what it is. They don't know. More than half don't know how to even establish it, because less than 10% of vendors and banks even report to the business credit bureaus. Mm-hmm. So you have to have that information, right? Mm-hmm. And so there's a huge opportunity out there. So with our services, we help small business owners in a number of different ways. We can help with business formation. So they want to set up an LLC, an S corp, whatever entity they want to set up. We can help them with that, soup to nuts, and we take care of all of the data points that banks look for, right? When we think about business credibility, if you're going to go to a bank and you ask for a loan, okay, they want to see, okay, is this company legitimate? Do they have a website? Do they have a business address, a business telephone, right? Are they listed on the National 411 database? Do they have established business credit? So, so these are data points that the banks look for, and we want to make sure that you're going to set up a business and set up the right way so that you can maximize funding early, because that's going to be the lifeline for a business. That's one of the things we do as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, from a holistic standpoint, like you were saying, it's very empowering for an individual to come to you and then say, hey, you know what, I'm thinking of getting into this business. I want to start, I have this idea, especially in the world of Shark Tank now, where everybody wants to start up a business, or everybody wants to, maybe, pursue a passion or pursue a dream. Where do you start? Right. And starting with credit, I think, is probably one of the most important things to do, because that's going to set the stage then for all your growth, all your advancement, and that type of stuff out there. What are some things that maybe business owners should do differently that they currently do that can help them in that process, or the ideas that you give them and say, hey, you know what, maybe you want to try orchestrating your business this way?
Yeah, so again, going back to business funding, right? Businesses need cash. They need funding to grow, to continue to sustain the business, right? Banks look at you, actually, the first date. The most important date is actually not the business formation. It's when you open your business bank account. So one recommendation I have for all business owners is establish your business bank account immediately when you establish that business. Secondly, look to establish business credit as soon as possible as well. So there are 3 major business credit bureaus. The biggest one being Dun and Bradstreet, the most well known is Dun and Bradstreet, right, where you can establish your Paydex score. Experian also has a business credit bureau called Experian Business, where you can establish your Experian IntelliScore. Both scores go from 0 to 100. You want to have at least an 80. That's considered a good business score. And by the way, you only have to have 3 payment experiences, or really work with 3 vendors where you actually make a payment. They'll send you an invoice, you pay the invoice, and make sure they report to the business credit bureaus. I'll give you a couple of vendors that report to the business credit bureaus right now as a treat to your listeners. So you've got Uline, Granger, Advanced Auto Parts, right? Brex. There's a number of different vendors where what we call tier 1, where basically any new small business can qualify for. And there are tiers, but in any event, build your business credit. Start to build your business credit early.
So it's not like high school where 70 gets you by.
Right. No, not even close.
Nope, we got to be in the 80s. No regions. No regions. Like regions are mandatory now. I dated myself, I guess, a little bit there.
That's funny.
So, well, Shawn, we really thank you for coming in today. Why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you, best way to contact, email, phone number, that the key points.
Yeah, thanks for having me this afternoon. So the best way to contact me, you can email me at Shawn@Moodie Bluez with a Z Consulting.com. Telephone's 518-245-9411. We're here in Colony. We have an office in Colony, upstate New York, in Albany, but certainly feel free to email me, call me. You can also go to our website, MoodieBluezConsulting.com. And like I said, we do a free consultation, whether you're a business owner looking to get access to funding, or build your business credit, or even establish a business, or as we spoke earlier, looking to fix your personal credit or need some help on the consumer side. We're happy to help. So thanks again.
And you can work with people out of state as well, correct?
Absolutely, all 50 states.
Great. Yeah, we're based in the Albany area, but just like us, we do business out of state, so that's always exciting. So, and you shared with me your family's out of town right now.
Yes, right? I got the house to myself till Wednesday. I don't know what to do with myself.
Better be in shape when
I'm doing podcasts. That's what I'm doing.
Excellent. Well, as always, we'd like to thank our listeners for listening to us. You can find us at yourtimeyourmoney.net. When you go on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Very important, like and subscribe. You can reach us at 800-222-3202, 43 British American Boulevard in Latham, New York. Once again, it's your time.
Your money.